So we're just going to go ahead and just get started.
Just gonna leap right in.
Yeah.
So can we talk about the politics of the offshore drilling announcement?
Sure.
Both sides. How can you guys afford to kind of anger the environmentalist, sort of liberal side of your base with a pretty expansive decision on offshore drilling? And then on the other side, how much do you think it could actually help in bringing Republicans along on climate change?
Well, it's the president's view that what we need to do here is take a comprehensive approach to energy policy. And there are people on the right who support some aspects of that. There's people on the left who support some aspects of that. But he didn't go into this looking at what the political coalition was going to be on getting this passed. He went into this thinking, what's the best policy for our country and how do we get it done? It's something that he talked about on the campaign trail. It's something that he's talked about for a very long time. So I think that for people who have followed the president, a lot of this policy isn't much of a surprise to them.
Right.
One thing I would say though, Jennifer, is just that the president was encouraged this morning to see Senator McConnell's spokesperson say that this was an issue that he had spoken specifically with President Obama about. And so it does look like there's some support on both sides of the aisle. We'll have a rigorous debate about this and hopefully get something done.
Well, can you talk, though, specifically about environmentalists? Obviously, they're not happy with the way this decision played out. So how much can you afford? Understood that it's a decision he had kind of hinted he was going to make, but at the same time he has to deal with the fallout from that decision. So how does that play out for you?
Sure. Well, we're the Democratic Party. We often have disagreements among our friends, but the president is going to continue to talk to folks in the environmental community and people in the Democratic Party and people in the Republican Party to make the most amount of progress that we can make on this critical issue. It's important because we need to decrease our dependence on foreign oil, and we need to move forward on some of these investments in order to create some of the most important jobs that we can create here in the 21st century. The president's view is that the country that comes out on top on investments in renewable energy and on creating new technology is going to be a leader in the 21st century, and he's not playing for second place.
So the drilling announcement today, there was no thought about the implications this might have for advancing or the climate change legislation that seems to be running into obstacles in Congress?
Well, I would say that it's obviously a part of the climate legislation and the entire package that the president is working with Congress to move forward. So I would say that this is mostly about coming through on a promise that he made to the American people that he would have a comprehensive energy plan that would include some increased domestic production of energy, but also some big investments in renewable technology, as well as finding ways to promote efficiency and things like that. So all these things are connected.
Well, Robert yesterday showed sort of acceptance of a timetable of getting financial regulatory reform through Congress onto the president's desk by no later than September. What is the timetable you all are thinking of for climate change legislation?
I don't have specific dates for you necessarily, but this is something that the president thinks we need to move forward on as quickly as possible. As recently as a couple weeks ago, he had a bipartisan group of senators into the White House to talk about some of the proposals that they have, some ways that we can come together in order to make progress on this issue. And he's going to continue to work with them in order to make progress as fast as we can.
Does the president believe that this can be done before the midterm elections in November?
His goal is to do this as fast as he possibly can. Yunji?
I'm curious, what changed? I mean, the president again and again on the campaign trail said that this would be insignificant, that expanding these kind of leases would not do much in terms of consumer relief, short-term or long-term. So what's different? Well,
what the president said was that there's no silver bullet when it comes to decreasing our dependence on foreign oil and having a comprehensive view on energy. If you remember the conversation that was being had, a lot of people treated offshore drilling as a panacea to solve all of our problems as it related to energy. But what the president thought was that it just had to be one part of a comprehensive strategy to dealing with that. That's why over the course of the presidency, you've heard him at the State of the Union talk about this and in other venues talk about it. He's talked about increasing production of domestic oil. He's talked about finding ways to get nuclear energy moving in this country, clean coal moving in this country, and all those different things. But along with the increased production, he's talked about ways to make vehicles more efficient. There's new fuel efficiency standards, which is something that was very hard to get an agreement on, but bringing all the relevant parties to the table, he was able to. He's done things to make the federal fleet more fuel efficient. more fuel efficient, using hybrid vehicles, buying plug-in cars, to make sure that we're doing everything we can from the federal government standpoint in order to decrease our dependence on foreign oil. So nothing has changed. What you see here today is a fulfillment of what the president said he was going to do.
But the president said that this was insignificant. If it's insignificant, then, and you have the kind of political fallout that Jennifer is talking about potentially happening, then what makes this worth it?
You know, what the president said was that this in and of itself would not be enough to get us on a path to energy independence. And so as one part of his strategy, finding places where you can reasonably and safely drill offshore to increase production is a key part of that. So, but it's just one part of that. And that's what he said in the campaign, and that's what he's following through on today. Dan?
Why did the president not go further in terms of drilling off of Alaska, where it's believed there are a lot of resources?
Well, what the president thinks we ought to do is use the best science available and the safest methods that we can in order to find oil and gas and then go and retrieve it and use it domestically. So what this proposal represents is what he and the team of experts around him think is the best way to go about that in the most responsible and safe way.
On healthcare, what's going on behind the scenes in terms of the president selling to the American people, beyond just the trip that we're seeing this week, selling to the American people the short-term and long-term benefits of this new law?
Well, you know, as the president said when we were going through this process to get healthcare passed into law, he was going to spend some time going out, talking to the American people specifically about the short-term and the long-term benefits that they were going to get out of it. And that's what you see. Tomorrow, the president will be in Maine, where he'll be talking about some of the benefits that small businesses will get in the short term and the long term as it relates to health care. So you'll see the president travel and talk about it. You'll see members of the administration talking about it. And we're going to continue to make sure the American people know exactly what's in this bill for them and when it comes into effect. Yep.
Bill, I want to revisit a health care issue from yesterday regarding the write-downs for big companies like AT&T, Caterpillar. I'm unclear. Is it the White House's position that these write-downs are purely political, that they could have been done in a more gradual way, or is it your position that, yes, their hands are tied by accounting rules and they had to take these write-downs immediately?
Well, I'm not going to make a statement on the motivations of people announcing what 30-year projections are saying about the impact that healthcare reform will have on their business. But it's the White House's view that all the benefits in healthcare reform will have a much greater positive impact on those businesses than the loss of a double subsidy will to their business.
You seem to be scoffing at a write-down over 30 years. Is that true that you're saying?
No, I'm not
this?
scoffing at it. I'm just pointing it out.
Okay, and secondly, it sounded like scoffing. Secondly, I sent you a high-priority email yesterday. I'm sure you saw it. But I was questioning the reading habits of Mr. Gibbs. Has Mr. Gibbs actually read all the reports he cited yesterday to justify, to claim that there will be a bending of the cost curve in the healthcare law?
I assume that he has, because he's a really fast reader and he's been very interested in this subject. But the good news for you is that I'm just doing this part-time, and you'll have your chance to ask him directly. Bill?
Does the president believe that his proposal today will make it easier to raise the cap-and-trade bill and actually get it debated in the Senate?
Well, the president's view is that what he did today is an important part of moving it forward. And so the president's been...
But I'm asking about politics.
I understand that. And I know that here in Washington, I haven't been here that long, but I know that everything is viewed through a lens of who does this help, who does this hurt, who's up, who's down. The president's view is that this is the best policy, and that working with members of the Senate on both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats, this is policy that there are things that people of both political persuasions can agree to, and we can move forward on it.
Presumably you've also been here long enough to know that that's the way they think inside, too.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Having talked to the folks who I work with here in the West Wing all day today, I know that there is a